Yeah, welcome to our daily Huddles webinar. I am Mohammad, the Partner Success Manager here in TopLeft. I've been with the company for over 2 years now. And yeah, we've onboarded few, almost 100 MSPs by now, I guess, and helping clients with adoption and everything. We are joined by Te'neyl Simpson, who is the Director of IT with Morgan Birge and one of our TopLeft consultants. Welcome, Te'neyl.
Thanks, Mohammed.
Yeah. Um, So yeah, let's start with actually one of the questions here is who is running daily huddles today in their team?
Does weekly count?
Sure.
Here, it's better than nothing. So yeah, that counts. And are you finding it useful, Renee?
Absolutely. Right now, my project team is only two people, so daily is a little bit of a waste of resources, but I definitely find the weekly huddles to be extremely beneficial, especially with the top left boards, going through it and easily identifying what everyone's working on.
Awesome. That's music to our ears.
It is. We're not going to have hard convincing on this.
Awesome. No, thanks for that, Renee. Yeah, so why are we running this? What we have heard from different MSPs who are not running huddles and something like that, right? Like our main idea for this webinar is to not only pitch about huddles, but also identify why people are not running daily huddles or maybe at least regular ones or weekly at least once, as in your case, Renee. So what we have heard from other MSPs that whoever complains the loudest their task moves forward. So it's like more with the ad hoc meetings or maybe something like that. If they don't have really a huddle every day or regularly to move things forward. Other objections were like it's too much work, too much updates needed to be done. One of the MSPs I met, they mentioned like, we're still running huddles with pen and paper because we don't want to move our tickets, our statuses needs to be changed, notes needs to be updated. So we don't want to do that. And the other was like, if you don't have capacity planning for your resources, you just lose money. That simple. Which is again like if you don't run the huddles, if you don't know how much your team is at over capacity or under capacity, you never unlock that gap over there. So as we said, like nobody's short of good engineers. It's just like things are invisible until it's found too late. Next, Tim Neal, I think we'll chime on this slide here. Tool
Yeah.
methodology.
So I love this slide. I feel like so many people that get top left think it's going to be this magical tool. And it is, but it has to be partnered with a team. And so I I'm a big believer that your stand-ups are they're not a status parade, they're not a deep dive working session, but what I find there to be value there is to bring individual contributors, actually make them start working as a team. So kind of my analogy for today is a basketball team. So if you have individual contributors on a basketball team, you have those guys that are running down the court or girls and that are making the baskets. But when you pull back, if you truly become a team and you start passing the ball, working together and strategizing together, that's when you become that winning team. And I feel like that is my focus for my huddles. How do I provide value? And how do I drive to be a team and have that shared accountability?
No, absolutely. And yeah, that really stuck on me. The basketball team is like passing. Do you think like it should be always a forward pass or it's a backward pass? And then ultimate goal is the same though. Like even though if they run backward or forward, they need to reach that same goal. But I think it's
Exactly.
similar mentality with the huddles too. Like even though if they or sometimes it might happen, your tickets are not always moving from left to right or sometimes not right to left. And we get that a lot, right? Like MSPs ask, like, "Oh, okay, you guys always tell that should Kanban should be always from left to right." But we did found out, like in MSP world, it's not always a linear process, and things can move in the other direction at times, depending on what existing things are blocked or how to unblock stuff. And that's exactly we are leaning towards this is how to actually run your daily huddles. Again, this is like the best practice, not necessarily this would really fit into your team. And maybe the columns over here as it is laid out might be different on what you are doing today. So yeah, what's the mentality here is for the huddles, things actually move on the other end, not right to left. It's re- right, sorry, not left to right, on the other side, right to left. So what we start talking about is what's blocked first, what has been blocked, how we can unblock stuff. We don't want to pick on people, but the tickets. You don't want to, oh, okay, hey, Greg, you have been stuck on this for like X amount of days or week. What's going on? It's the conversation should never be like that. It should be more like, hey, we did notice this ticket for endpoint is not accessible, has been in the queue for like over 2 weeks. How can we unblock stuff? So that would be the right questions to ask your team members, not really pinpointing on them. And that's how you start having those best practices. Then next comes up is what's in progress. And as you can see here in progress, we intentionally have this with whip limits. Whip limits doesn't necessarily restrict you from taking more tasks, but just gives an identifier that like, okay, we are this particular person is over capacity. Maybe there's something we can take off his or her plate to really unblock stuff, or maybe reprioritize stuff on which ticket they should really be working first to move along. And obviously, the ready is the last column to be tackled already or scheduled on what's the first ticket there, what's going on, just put a quick note into it and something like that. The huddle should never be with the intention that, like, uh, we're going too much deeper dive into the details of each ticket. It's just on a high level what's going on because you have to keep in mind that it's just 15 minutes and anything that you think like needs a broader discussion needs to be taken offline. Te'neyl, anything to add on that?
I love 16th minute items. So I was chomping at the bit to talk about this. So to your point, when you start to see the team want to dive into something, what we do is we say, hey, let's use that as a 16th minute item. And what that means is we actually schedule our stand-ups for 30 minutes. They're typically done in 15 minutes. And those people that need to stay and do the deep dive, it gives them the opportunity to do so.
Yeah. And yeah, typically we hear lots of objections from people as well, like, oh, why do we need to even run those huddles? Like everything is on my board, right? Like we even don't have a facilitator, or maybe our team is small, team is large. And I think we came up with a number that, like, if your team is like over hundreds of people, you not necessarily need to have all hundreds of people in the same room. You just need to have run it by pods or by teams, not necessarily have the whole like the company in the same room with the huddle. And with smaller teams, it's much more effective. And I think things get unblocked really quick. If you are like a 2, 3 person or less than 5 people MSPs, it things are much more clear, and you get more clarity when you run those this kind of meetings here.
Yeah. I really like it when the stand-up becomes not necessarily the scrum master or the leader going through each ticket, but it becomes more of a conversation of the team. That's what we would expect for a team, right? I'm going to go back to the basketball analogy for a second. And when we have timeouts on a basketball team, you're not going through every play, right? But what you are going through is where's the problem? How are we going to solve it? How are we going to work together? And so stand-ups, I highly recommend that at least once a week you go through all of your tickets, right to left, top to bottom, and in order to ensure that all of your work's moving. But what I really love is when we come into a stand-up meeting and I say, hey, does anybody have hot topics? And the team
Yeah.
saying things like, um, I need help with this, or hey, John, didn't you do something like this last week? I'm trying to do it and I can't figure it out. It's those call outs and it's them working together as a team in order to figure out how the team's going to deliver everything together that really makes those meetings valuable. And when you see them start to use that time and see the value in it and ask each other those questions, that's where you have that magic. And I should say one thing that I find is when you found that magic, you no longer have to ask your team to come to the meeting. They come to it themselves. An example of this, I'm going to be out next week. There is a single stand-up canceled. My teams have all got their stand-ups. They'll be leading them, and they want that
Mm.
time with each other.
No, that's very interesting. And I think like your team is finding their natural leader. And if anyone is missing out, they just are happy to accommodate and take over that role. And that's where we also come up, like, the terms that people usually mention, like, does a team need to have a scrum master or like a team leader who needs to always lead these meetings or something like that? And not necessarily, like, once you have this huddles processes set up, you don't necessarily need to have a scrum master leading it all the time. Your team can naturally lead it if someone is on vacation or someone does something like that. A team can have easily like two, three natural leaders who can take over because it's the same repeatable process every single day. Or, if you're running at a weekly cadence or two, three times a week or something like that, they know what exactly to talk about and how to unblock stuff. So, yeah, no, thanks for sharing that insight, Te'neyl.
Yeah, of
Um,
course.
And yeah, on the next slide, we'll be moving on, like how this simple habits really helped different MSPs. And we would love to hear Te'neyl's story on how she transformed her company, Morgan Birge, on just based on the simple habits.
Yeah. So I started at Morgan Birge 3+ years ago. And when I started, we were working in a scheduling methodology. And so what that meant was we had a project manager, we had a dispatcher, and the project manager and dispatcher looked at the work, thought about what resources could perform that work, and then scheduled them accordingly. And then rescheduled them as other priorities came up, rescheduled them as they didn't allocate the proper amount of time. Um, Teams wasted time playing video games while they were waiting for their next set of work. And so there's just a lot of challenges that we saw with that scheduling mentality, and nobody was working together. There's a lot of great talent that were really working in silos. And so with that, kind of got immersed into the culture, et cetera, learned a lot about the team. And then I started looking for a tool that could help with an agile methodology. And that's, of course, when I found TopLeft. And I love that TopLeft had the two-way integration with ConnectWise. We implemented it. We put one team in it within a couple of days. By the end of the week, like the rumors had spread, and we quickly added the rest of the teams to TopLeft, and we were up and running. Then quickly with TopLeft, it was important that we were talking about the work, right? So we could
Yeah.
visualize it, but we needed to be talking about it. And so along with that, we implemented stand-ups. Right now we have 5 different teams doing stand-ups. So um, Renee, you said that you meet once a week. I have 3 teams that meet twice a week. I have 2 teams that meet every day. And so I think being thoughtful about how frequently it makes sense for you to meet, it is the right thing to do. Figure out what works for you. When we really got up and running, we continued to grow and add additional clients, but not additional headcount. So we actually
Mm.
doubled our number of clients before we started to add any headcount or make resource changes. Now we've more than doubled, and we're starting to look into what resources that we need in order to support that. So again, just TopLeft and stand-up meetings allowed us to double our output with the same resources.
No, that's really interesting. Thanks for sharing, Te'neyl. And I
Yeah,
think, yeah, sorry, go on.
sorry, let me add one more thing to that. I think the more powerful thing for me, well, I shouldn't say the more powerful. Being able to visualize the work is extremely powerful, but the team mentality is it's powerful and it's fun. I think back, I had one team, we never knew what they were working on. We knew they were genius, that we had two resources on it, very highly intelligent, were able to deliver on their own. And that's exactly what they were doing. However, when one of them was out, we didn't know where passwords were, or we didn't know where documentation was, or even if it was there, it was for one of them. It wasn't for both of them. And when we would get
Mm,
them in a room together, it was like kind of speaking past each other a little bit. And we invested the time in order to make sure that we were doing that every day. And those two became so close. They would share work, share thoughts. Hey, I got to go to a doctor's appointment.
mm,
I'll work on that while you're at the doctor's appointment. Just that really close relationship that if you would have asked them before that relationship was built, what they would have said is, I own my work. I don't need help from anyone. And that was true. But after they became a team, they would have never gone back to how they were before. And that's one of the teams that we actually have a third member now. And it's just honestly, the 15-minute stand up is some of the most fun time of the day for us. It's just a
mm.
really great time to bring everybody together and help each other out. So it's a blast.
No, yeah, really love that thought process. And I think like since I've been working in that MSP space and like talking to lots of project engineers and technicians, I figured out that project technicians or just, service technicians are not the most extroverted people, and they
Mhm.
just wanted to work. They typically want to work in silos. They just they're more concerned about individual contribution. They just want to get done with their day, and pretty much that. And I think stand-ups are a reason which brings a team together, and where they start discussing things, help each other out. It just brings that team mentality and just shifts that team's culture overall.
Yep,
So
exactly.
yeah. Yeah, thanks for sharing all those. And yeah, we have seen many other different benefits of not just stand-ups, like, from stand-ups, unblocking stuff. People know their priorities on what really to work on. And I think, Te'neyl, your team also had a chance to not rely on a dispatcher. Like they completely shifted to a pool-based workflow because the team knew exactly what their priorities were. The first card on the columns were just to pick up to their queue, not cherry picking tickets, which is a very common problem across many MSPs. So yeah, those are the things MSPs can solve. Sorry, TopLeft can solve with just simple things like stand-ups. Anything to add, Neil?
No, exactly what you just called out. We recognized that we could put our dispatcher in a new role, and we had the project manager took over the responsibilities of both of those positions. And like I said, we doubled our client base before we increased that.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, and moving on to this today, one of the highlights. And so yeah, we did identify that simple habits like tracking, like Huddles and whip tracking catching your aging tickets, leaving notes for each meetings that you held. Like those simple habits really adds up. And we introduced this huddle tracker recently in TopLeft. It's been a month or so that we introduced that. The understanding behind this is management or your boss could ask like, oh, okay, you're running those daily huddles, or if not, why? And what's going on, what's the ROI with TopLeft, and so on. So what we found that if you're running those daily huddles, if you're logging it, or at least regular huddles, if you're logging it into TopLeft, and you can see it on a day-to-day basis, as you can see all the like greens over here are huddles that were held, skipped on holidays, skipped on some other days. So this consistency of holding huddles and also tracking it with your whip, what was discussed during the huddles on a high level, if you keep a note on all those. Typically, the correlation with that is things obviously gets unblocked. Your whip overall goes down, and obviously you can prove it to your leadership that okay, consistently holding simple habits, just using TopLeft. Because TopLeft, like when you are running it consistently, for example, 9 a.m. on even Monday mornings, or like all mornings across the work week, consistent timing, consistent tracking, it proves it just adds up over there. And that's the reason we introduced this tool. And we have some clients actually who are tracking it daily now, and they have told us that they are finding it really useful. So yeah, if you are interested to get access to this tool, it's not only just has this tab, but it does have many other training tools that we're planning to develop in the future as well. So yeah, with that, I will leave the floor with some questions. Anything that stuck out, or yeah, if you want to have this access to the tracker.
Thanks, Mohammed. Renee, anything that we've said that stood out to you, or anything that we missed that you'd recommend adding?
Oh, nothing right now. I did see I'm not sure if you want to talk about this just yet, but a recent email from Wim about some new reporting metrics. In addition to what this huddle shows here, I think you guys have some great things in store for metrics, which my managers are recently getting very excited about. So I
Mhm.
love all this stuff you're doing.
Yeah, thanks for it. And yeah, I think Wim just he is just sending out emails about that today. So yeah, feel free to book a one-on-one with him. We would love to take that feedback about project health stuff. I think as a PM, it will definitely help you to understand the financial aspect of it. It's the more of a dashboard, shows their financials, budgets, and I think all the tracking just in one single view. Right now, it is in a Kanban and Gantt, but you'll have more built into it with AI integration and other things like that. But yeah, Rene, just the way we introduce the huddles that we mentioned earlier, is it the same way you're running your stand-ups on a weekly basis, or is it different in your case?
It's very similar with a little bit of tips for me, actually. I love how you guys really have your technicians run it, and that's one thing that I need to work on. My two
Hmm.
technicians, getting them closer, getting them to work together and kind of voice their opinions before I come and ask them stuff. So you've definitely given me a lot of stuff to think about and look forward to.
Good, yeah. Yeah,
Yep.
take the work off of yourself and put it on them.
Oh yeah. I hear the better your technicians are, the less work you have to do.
There you go.
Yeah, you just
Yeah,
have
I
to
did.
nudge them to the right direction. Sorry, to
Yep.
know. Go ahead.
No, I was just trying to think through kind of some of those questions that I asked my team to get them kind of flowing. I love coming in and saying, does anybody have any hot topics? Because so much of the time, they do have something on their mind that they need help with, and it
Mm,
just lets them go ahead and bubble it up and bring it out. And typically it's something that we definitely need to talk through. So it's great to take the time. Other
yeah.
questions like, um, So I know it's really common to go around the room and say, what did you do yesterday? What are you doing today? Do you have any blockers? And there's a couple of downfalls with that. One is it just becomes routine, and two is everybody speaks to what they want to. So if maybe I'm not as comfortable with the team, that's not forcing me to speak to all of my work. It's forcing me to speak to what I'm comfortable speaking to. And so there may be things that just kind of get, I don't know, not spoken to, swept under the rug, whatever. And so while I like to ask those three questions every once in a while, I definitely don't make that a daily routine. Um, what's happening today? How are we progressing towards our delivery? Are we still on track? Does anybody need help? Does anybody have blockers? Those are just some open-ended questions that kind of bring out some of those things that we should be talking through. And allow for the help of teamwork, right? Because so much of the time, if I say, hey, I need help, and I feel like that's such a powerful phrase, people want to help when they hear that phrase. Or I'm having a hard time with this. People naturally want to help, and that's where you start to get that team to gel. I don't know
Yeah,
if
and
those ideas. Sorry, Mohammed.
no, yeah, but I think like it completely aligns with a few things as well. Like, if people are not speaking up during the huddles, and even if they do so, like, it's not always like, hey, what you're doing today, what was done yesterday, or something like that. It's still basically more of a people question rather than actually addressing the tickets maybe that are really stuck, or maybe why. We should be really focusing on why it's not moving, rather than like what is happening. And also the main intention of this stand-up should be like, if people are comfortable speaking during this team huddles, it would reduce most of the ad hoc meetings, right? Like, people just coming up later on, oh, yeah, yeah, I was blocked on this for like months, nobody talked to me, or I didn't have a clear path, or something like that. So things comes up later on anyways, and which could be just simply reduced if people are like, made that space, that team stand-up space is just made their, peaceful path to really open those conversations.
Yeah, and I've seen that actually having obviously those top left boards for your huddles really helps my technicians. I'll just share the screen and they'll be able to look and be like, oh yeah, that one. Completely forgot they had worked on it last week. But just having that visual reminder for them so they don't have to jog back and think and like you mentioned, only talk about what they're working on right now or what they want to talk about. The visualization is definitely a big help in top left.
Really centers the team, doesn't it?
Oh yeah.
Now, yeah. Is there any other questions that we can answer today?
Not from me.
Yeah.
Renee was an easy audience. We'll see those that watch this later what they think.
Oh, I love it. I feel like I'm part of the presentation.
Yeah.
I appreciate you joining today.
Oh, I
No,
appreciate you
yeah.
guys for everything you do, keeping us all aware of any new changes and everything, and making sure that we're up to date and utilizing all the features that you provide to us. I love it. Love you guys. Thank you.
No. Yeah. Thanks for the testimonial. I'd say we'd even maybe record one of your testimonials live.
Yeah, I'd
So,
be happy to. You got a fan out of me.
no, yeah, always love to have TopLeft fans. So, no, really appreciate you being here. Thank you, Te'neyl, for your time as well. And I hope the webinar was useful, and the recording will be available soon. I think many folks who weren't able to attend, but they registered, would send that recording later on. But yeah,
Perfect.
thank you all, and have a good rest of your week.
Thank you, Mohammad and Te'neyl.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you. Have a good day.
You too.